Senator, thanks for sitting down with me here.
Great to be with you, Tim.
I'm curious why you believe that young people seem open to failed 20th century ideas, central planning, socialism, sometimes even Marxism.
Well, in many ways, that's not new. Churchill famously said that if you're 20 and not a liberal, you have no heart. And if you're 40 and not a conservative, you have no brain. It has been true for a long time that a lot of young people naturally start to lean left. I think it's been exacerbated right now because I think our schools are not doing a good job of teaching basic facts. And so, look, socialism is appealing when you ask people, do you want free stuff? Who doesn't want free stuff? Like to have everything for free, that sounds really nice. And a lot of young people have no idea that socialism, everywhere it's been tried on earth, it has produced misery and suffering. It doesn't work. And the converse, they especially don't know, that if you want to lift people out of poverty, that free enterprise is the most powerful force the world has ever seen for lifting people out of poverty. But to understand that, you either have to have some real-world life experience, or you have to learn actually history and facts. And too many young people aren't getting it from schools, and frankly, too many of us are not doing a good enough job educating them about those facts either.
Do you think that the student debt issues, the housing crisis, and by that I mean two things, when housing collapsed 15 years ago, and now housing being totally unaffordable for them, these different economic circumstances, you think that's contributing, they're looking for something to blame, and free markets seem like a good candidate?
Well, look, I think that's right. I think you have young people who also have come of age at a time of prosperity. And in a time of prosperity, success seems easy. And they don't think about what it is that makes it possible to succeed. You know, I try to think of every issue from the perspective of my dad. My dad came from Cuba in 1957, and he was 18. He couldn't speak English. And he had nothing. And his first job was washing dishes, making 50 cents an hour. And, you know, I try to think of every issue from the perspective of what helps that teenage kid washing dishes to achieve the American dream. And I think if you look at left and right, the basic difference from left and right when it comes to economics, both see the socioeconomic ladder. Those on the left want to reach down and physically pull people up. And that's often driven of a noble sentiment that they want to help people. The problem is it doesn't work. That the only way anyone has ever climbed the economic ladder is to pull himself or herself up one rung at a time. What conservatives, what believers in free enterprise want is policies that ease the means of ascent up the economic ladder, that help people gain skills, help people get education, help people save, help people invest, help people create a business. You know, I've said a bunch of times, you know, regarding my dad, thank God that some well-meaning liberal didn't come along and put his arm around him and say, Raphael, let me take care of you. Let me give you a government check every month because you can't make it on your own. And that would have been completely destructive. And what happens so often is you see people, they get trapped in dependency. They get trapped and they give up the drive, they give up the vision that they can achieve the dream. And that, it doesn't work.
I think it's a great segue to my next question, which is, you and I both view government as there to maybe remove impediments for growth, but not to be the agent responsible for pulling people up the ladder. It does seem to me right now that there are more on the right interested in a greater role of government in creating economic outcomes, and it concerns me. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's a mistake, and I think it's a mistake. People are frustrated in part because the left has been so aggressive. The left has been so abusive. You know, you think about it, 5 years ago, let's take the U.S. Senate. There was one open socialist in the Senate. That was Bernie Sanders. He was the only one who would admit he was a socialist. And all the other Democrats would say, no, we're not socialists. Today, Bernie is the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. Joe Biden's number one priority, his first year in office, was passing Bernie Sanders' socialist budget. That is radical and extreme, and you put that on top of the woke policies of corporate America, the censorship of big tech, all of that together, people are understandably pissed off. And so they're trying to look for a way to combat it. I think all of that is good, but the answer is not use government the way the left does for conservative objectives. The answer, so for example, look, I think when it comes to taxes, we should pass a simple flat tax. In 2016, when I ran for president, I laid out a flat tax that was a 16% flat tax on all businesses and a 10% flat tax on all families and individuals. Big standard deduction, and you fill out your taxes on a postcard. We actually released the postcard. So this is your IRS return, this postcard. One of the biggest reasons I support a flat tax, which would let you abolish the IRS, shut it down, is because it limits the power of politicians. You know, if you look at the tax code is so incredibly complicated, and you've got on both sides, you got Republicans that want to have a special tax credit here, you got Democrats, special tax credit here, and it serves to make everyone in the private sector have to come to politicians on bended knee and ask for, you know, hey, can you give me a special favor? And, you know, the politician is usually like, yeah, I can take care of you. You know, we've got a fundraiser on Tuesday, you're going to be there, right? And part of the beauty of the flat tax is it means the politicians, the answer has to be, hey, look, you pay the same flat tax everyone else does. You got to build a better mousetrap.
There's no incentive for cronyism when you sort of disempower their ability to do that. Let me close up with this. I feel that we on the right have often focused an economic worldview around a policy objective. Now you, of course, in the United States Senate, you're there to do policy. But I think the argument, the ideas, the movement has to be more than just even a really good one like flat tax. That we have to make our case about the human person. How do we go about restoring this conversation as centered around the human person and an outcome for society and kind of breaking down the stereotype that the left has put on right-wing economics?
Yeah, look, it's a great point. If you look at how left and right communicate, they communicate very, very different. Most conservatives talk like accountants. They stand up, they put on a green eye shade, they put up a pie chart, and in a nasal voice they say, if you look to the long-term actuarial soundness of the Social Security system, it is in jeopardy. The liberals, conservatives try to talk to the brain. Liberals talk to the heart. Liberals say, he wants to eat your children. What I think is most effective is to do both. Is to use reason, but also connect it to what you care about, what matters. So, you know, if you look at during the Trump presidency with low taxes, low regulations, common sense economic policies, we saw the lowest unemployment in 50 years. We saw the lowest African American unemployment ever recorded. We saw the lowest Hispanic unemployment ever recorded. But one of the stats that I think was most powerful is we saw 7 million people come off of food stamps. And what I would try to do is look, that number in the abstract doesn't mean anything. But what that means is right now in Southern California, there was a single mom who had been dependent on government, who has now gotten a job. And she's walking home, walking in the front door of her apartment, carrying 2 bags of groceries. And she's setting those groceries on the dining room table. And she's looking her kids in the eyes. And her kids have a different level of respect for her. And she's got a different level of self-respect because she's working. Because she's providing for her family. Because she feels the worth, the dignity of providing for her family. Rather than being trapped in dependency. That's not just transforming her life. That's transforming her kids' lives. It is powerful. And look, America is an idea. It's an idea that anybody can achieve anything no matter where you start. There's a reason people come from all over the world. Because there's no country, there has been no country in the history of humanity that has provided so many people with the opportunity to achieve their dreams. And that's what this is about at the end of the day. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to make clear what the stakes are. The stakes are, for the little boy or little girl that has dreams but doesn't know how to achieve them, to have a system where you can do it. It's one of the reasons, to take another policy issue, school choice. I'm deeply passionate about school choice. I think it's the civil rights issue of the 21st century. Why? Because with an education, kids have a much better chance of achieving the American dream. But we need to understand it not just in the abstract or theoretical, but in the very real of the people's lives who are impacted and transformed.
Well, I think that's a great way to conclude. I appreciate your time. I think that focus on choice, on freedom, on individual responsibility, all for the purpose of a more dignified human existence.
Yes.
This is the type of society that, of course, America was made to be, and it's the type of society you and I believe in. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir.